The emergency lights flashed red across the Galactic Council chambers, warning everyone that another star system had fallen. Ambassador Velcor stood at the center podium, his forearms trembling as he delivered the news that no one wanted to hear. "Sigma Outpost is gone," he said, his voice barely steady. 17,000 souls lost in less than 3 hours. The chamber erupted in panicked voices from dozens of species. General Northrum slammed his massive fist on the table, silencing the room. "How many systems does that make?" he demanded. 17, Velcor answered. 17 systems in 6 months, and they show no signs of stopping. The Corinthian swarm had appeared at the edge of known space like a nightmare come to life. Their warriors stood 3 meters tall, with armor-plated exoskeletons that deflected most energy weapons. They healed from wounds that would kill any other species. Their biology designed for endless war. Worst of all, they fought as one mind, coordinating attacks with perfect precision across entire battlefields. Every weapon the Council possessed had been tried and failed. Plasma cannons that could melt through starship hulls barely scratched swarm armor. Kinetic weapons that punched through shields were absorbed by their regenerative flesh. Biological agents designed to target their nervous systems had no effect on their hive-linked consciousness. "We must evacuate the outer colonies," suggested Ambassador Trell of the Qualix Alliance, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with fear. "Evacuate to where?" General Northrum growled. "They advance faster than we can retreat. Then we negotiate." Trell insisted. "You cannot negotiate with a hive mind that sees all other life as resources to consume," Velcor said quietly in the back of the chamber. Captain Kate Morrison watched the debate with growing frustration. She represented Earth, the newest species admitted to the Galactic Council just 8 months ago. Humanity had been exploring space for barely 50 years, colonizing only 3 systems beyond their home world. The Council had welcomed them with polite skepticism, treating humans like children who had just discovered fire. Now Kate listened to the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy admit they had no idea how to fight this war. "If I may speak," she said. Standing from her observation seat, Velcor looked surprised but nodded. "The human representative wishes to address the Council." Kate walked to the speaker's platform, aware that every eye in the chamber was on her. "Your strategies aren't working because you fight the swarm the same way every time," she began. "We have employed every military doctrine developed over 10,000 years of galactic civilization." Northrum interrupted. "Exactly," Kate said. "You fight like civilizations that evolved on peaceful worlds, species that learned warfare late in your development." The chamber buzzed with offended murmurs. "Humanity comes from a world that tried to kill us every single day," Kate continued. "We learned to fight before we learned to farm. We developed weapons while we were still living in caves. And this makes you qualified to advise us?" Velcor asked. "Not unkindly. It makes us experienced in a way you are not," Kate answered. "Every species here comes from worlds with gentle gravity, stable climates, abundant resources. You developed civilization first and warfare second as an unfortunate necessity." She pulled up a holographic display of Earth. "Humans evolved on a death world with crushing gravity, extreme weather, predators designed to hunt us, diseases that killed millions. We fought wars for thousands of years before we even reached our own moon." "Ancient history," General Northrum dismissed. "The swarm is here now. My point is that humanity understands total warfare in ways you don't." Kate pressed. "We have strategies, tactics, methods of fighting that you have never needed to develop. We appreciate your enthusiasm," Velcor said with clear condescension. "But this conflict requires experience with modern warfare, not primitive tribal combat." Kate felt anger flash through her, but kept her voice level. Callista Prime is next, isn't it? She asked. The chamber fell silent. Callista Prime was an industrial world with 3 billion inhabitants. The swarm fleet had been detected 2 days ago, moving directly toward the system. Council forces are moving to intercept. Velcor confirmed. And how many civilians can you evacuate before the swarm arrives? Kate asked. No one answered. They all knew the truth. The evacuation ships could save maybe 10% of the population before the fighting started. Let humanity help. Kate said simply, you have 3 colony worlds and a defense fleet of 40 ships. General Nothram stated, what could you possibly contribute to this fight? Everything we learned surviving on the worst planet in known space. Kate replied. She brought up tactical data from the latest swarm engagements. Look at how they fight. Pure overwhelming force with no tactical flexibility. They rely on their biological advantages and hive coordination. But that coordination is also their weakness. We have analyzed these patterns for months, a Volcari tactical officer said. We see no exploitable weakness. Because you are looking for technological weaknesses, Kate explained. Humanity learned to fight enemies we couldn't match in size or strength. We developed asymmetric warfare, psychological tactics, strategies for turning enemy advantages into vulnerabilities. Velcor raised one hand. We cannot risk Callista Prime on untested theories from a species with no experience in space warfare. Then you will watch 3 billion people die. Kate said bluntly. The words hit the chamber like a physical blow. I am sending a report to Earth Command, Kate continued. I am requesting immediate deployment of human military assets to Callista Prime. The Council has not authorized this. General Nothram said. I am not asking for authorization, Kate replied. I am informing you of humanity's decision to defend a fellow Council world. You can accept our help or waste time debating while people die. She turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Morrison. Velcor called after her. Kate stopped but did not turn around. If human forces arrive and interfere with Council military operations, there will be consequences. The only consequence that matters is whether those 3 billion people live or die. Kate answered. She left the chamber and immediately activated her communicator. The encryption protocols engaged and the signal bounced through quantum relays back to Earth. This is Captain Morrison. Authorization code Delta 7 Alpha, she said. Confirmed. Captain, came the response from Earth Command. Send your traffic. Kate took a breath and spoke the words that would change everything. Send the Marines, she said. Say again. Captain, the Council is going to lose Callista Prime and everyone on it unless we act now. I need combat deployment of human forces. Full authorization. There was a pause as her request traveled up the chain of command. Then a new voice came on the line, one she recognized. Captain Morrison. This is General Clark. Your request is approved. We are mobilizing the 3rd Expeditionary Battalion under Colonel Jack Hayes. Expected arrival at Callista Prime in 72 hours. Thank you. Sir, Kate said. Make sure the Council understands we are not there to conquer, General Clark added. We are there to teach, Kate smiled grimly. I think they are about to get an education they will never forget. She ended the transmission and looked out the viewport at the stars, somewhere out there. The swarm was approaching Callista Prime. Confident in their invincibility, they had never faced an enemy from Earth that was about to change. Colonel Jack Hayes stood in the briefing room on Luna Base, watching his battalion assemble for deployment. The holographic display showed the swarm fleet advancing toward Callista Prime like a wave of death. 72 hours, he said to the assembled officers. That's how long those people have before the swarm arrives. His executive officer, Major Lisa Chun, pulled up tactical data from previous swarm engagements. Council forces have lost every major battle in the past 6 months. She noted, They are predicting total evacuation failure at Callista. Jack studied the combat footage. Carefully, he watched swarm warriors tear through Council defensive lines with brutal efficiency. He saw their armor deflect energy weapons that should have vaporized them. He observed their wounds healing in real time as they continued fighting. They are impressive, he admitted, but they are not unbeatable. Sergeant Ben Tucker, his senior non-commissioned officer, leaned forward. The Council keeps fighting them head-on, Ben observed. Massed formations against massed formations. Like some kind of ancient battle. Because that's how civilized species fight wars, Jack said. They line up. They apply superior technology. They expect the enemy to break under sustained firepower. And when the enemy doesn't break, Lisa added, they lose. Jack finished. He zoomed in on a section of footage showing a swarm assault on a Council stronghold. The alien defenders held their positions exactly as their training dictated, firing from prepared defenses. Maintaining formation discipline, the swarm simply overwhelmed them through sheer biological superiority and perfect coordination. They fight like they have never faced an enemy that adapts. Jack said quietly. He pulled up Earth's military history, specifically the conflicts that had shaped human warfare. Every species in the Council comes from worlds that were kind to them, he explained. Stable climates, abundant food, predictable seasons. They developed civilization first and learned warfare as an academic exercise. Earth was different, Lisa said. Earth tried to kill us every single day, Jack agreed. Ice ages that lasted thousands of years. Droughts that turned continents into deserts. Predators with claws and teeth, designed specifically to hunt humans. We learned to fight or we died. He brought up tactical doctrines from human history, guerrilla warfare from Vietnam, urban combat from Stalingrad, asymmetric tactics from 100 smaller conflicts. We learned something the Council never needed to learn, Jack continued. How to beat an enemy that is stronger, faster, and better armed than we are. Private Sam Rodriguez, one of the youngest Marines in the battalion, raised his hand. Sir, the swarm hive mind coordinates their entire force as one unit, he said. How do we counter that? We make it their weakness instead of their strength. Jack answered. He pulled up a detailed analysis of swarm coordination patterns. Watch how they move. Perfect synchronization across entire battlefields. Every warrior responding to the same command structure in real time. That's terrifying. Someone muttered. That's predictable, Jack corrected. A hive mind is fast, but it lacks individual initiative. When we disrupt their coordination, they cannot adapt the way independent fighters can. Lisa highlighted several points in the combat footage. Here, and here. She pointed. These are coordination nodes. Swarm warriors that relay commands to surrounding units. The Council never targeted them because they look identical to regular warriors. But if we take out the nodes, Ben said. Understanding dawning. The local swarm loses cohesion, Jack confirmed. They fall back on instinct instead of strategy. And instinct can be exploited. He outlined the human battle. Plan small unit tactics instead of massed formations. And run attacks to disrupt swarm. Coordination, psychological warfare to create chaos. In the hive mind, environmental exploitation, turning the battlefield itself into a weapon. The Council will think we are insane. Lisa warned. They already think we are primitive. Jack said. Let them underestimate us along with the swarm. The battalion spent the next 3 days in intensive preparation. They studied every second of available swarm combat footage. They practiced close quarters combat against simulated swarm warriors. They reviewed human military history, learning from battles fought thousands of years ago on Earth. Jack watched his Marines train and felt pride in their capability. These were soldiers who understood that warfare was not about honor or glory. It was about survival, adaptation, and doing whatever was necessary to protect those who could not protect themselves. The transport ships departed Luna Base exactly on schedule. 12 vessels carrying 3,000 human Marines toward a battle the galaxy had already written off as lost. Jack stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching stars streak past as they entered quantum tunnel space. "Do you think the Council will let us help?" Lisa asked beside him. "They don't have a choice," Jack answered. "By the time we arrive, they will be desperate enough to accept anyone." The journey took 3 days. They received constant updates from Callista Prime as they traveled. The swarm fleet had entered the system. Council forces were engaging them in orbit. The fighting was brutal and one-sided. Human communications officers listened to Council tactical channels with growing frustration. "They are making the same mistakes," Ben reported from the Combat Information Center. "Holding fixed positions, fighting defensively, waiting for the swarm to come to them." "How bad is it?" Jack asked. "Council forces are taking 70% casualties in the first hour of every engagement," Ben said grimly. Jack felt anger rise in his chest. These were not acceptable losses. These were slaughter. "Are they listening to our tactical recommendations?" he demanded. "Negative, sir," the communications officer replied. "General Nothram has ordered all Council units to ignore human transmissions. He is getting his people killed," Lisa said. "He is following doctrine," Jack corrected. "Doctrine that worked for 10,000 years against enemies who fought the same way. He cannot imagine that everything he knows might be wrong." The fleet dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Callista system immediately. Sensors lit up with contacts. The swarm fleet filled orbital space around Callista Prime like a swarm of insects. Council ships were scattered and burning, fighting a losing retreat toward the planet. "Get me a channel to General Nothram," Jack ordered. The communication came through filled with static from nearby weapons fire. "This is Colonel Hayes of the United Human Space Forces, requesting permission to engage swarm forces. Hold your position, human." Nothram's voice came back, strained but firm. "This is not Earth's war. Maintain defensive formation and await orders." Jack watched another Council ship explode on the tactical display. He watched escape pods launching, filled with survivors who would likely die before rescue could arrive. He watched thousands of lives end because someone was too proud to accept help. "General, your current tactics are not working," Jack said carefully. "Let us show you another way. I have fought wars while your species was learning to use tools," Nothram responded. "I do not need tactical advice from newcomers. You need something because your people are dying." Jack shot back. There was a long pause. Then Nothram spoke with cold authority. "All human vessels will hold position at system edge. Any movement toward the battle zone will be considered hostile action." Nothram out. The channel closed. Jack stood in silence, watching people die on his tactical display. Lisa moved beside him. "Orders, sir." Jack thought about those 3 billion people on Callista Prime. He thought about the Council forces being torn apart, trying to defend them. He thought about every human who had ever fought against impossible odds to protect the innocent. "All ships, combat formation Delta," he ordered. "Prepare for planetary insertion." "Sir." "The General ordered us to hold position," the helmsman said. "I heard what he said," Jack replied. "I also heard 3,000 people die in the last 5 minutes because he is too stubborn to adapt." He looked at his crew, at the Marines preparing in the hangar bays, at the faces of humans who had volunteered to travel across the galaxy to help strangers. "We did not come here to watch," Jack said. "We came here to fight. All ships advance. Target the planet. We are going in." "What about Council Command?" Lisa asked. "They can court-martial me after we save their planet," Jack answered. the human fleet accelerated toward Callista Prime, toward the swarm, toward a battle that would change galactic history behind them. Council forces watched in shock as the primitive newcomers charged straight into the meat grinder. They expected to witness humanity's destruction. They had no idea they were about to witness humanity's gift to the galaxy. The drop pods screamed through Callista Prime's atmosphere like falling stars. Inside one of them, Sergeant Lisa Chun checked her weapon for the third time and watched her squad prepare for combat. 30 seconds to impact. The automated voice announced. She looked at her Marines. Corporal Ben Tucker adjusting his gear. Private Sam Rodriguez reviewing the tactical map. 5 others who trusted her to bring them home alive. Remember the briefing, she said over the squad channel. We are not here to hold ground. We are here to make the swarm think twice about taking it. The pod hit the surface hard. Shock absorbers barely softening the landing. The doors blew open, and Lisa led her squad out into the industrial sector of Callista. Prime's capital city smoke filled the air from burning buildings in the distance. She could hear the sounds of fighting as council forces engaged the swarm. Spread out, she ordered. Tucker, take point. Rodriguez, watch R6. They moved through the ruins using cover and concealment, exactly as they had trained. 3 blocks away, a council defensive line was being overrun by swarm warriors. Lisa watched through her scope as the aliens fought bravely but uselessly. They held their positions in a textbook defensive formation, firing coordinated volleys at the advancing swarm. The swarm simply absorbed the damage and kept coming. Their regenerative biology healing wounds faster than the council could inflict them. Poor bastards. Ben muttered beside her. Mark the coordination nodes. Lisa instructed her tactical computer highlighted 3 swarm warriors that were subtly different from the others. They stood slightly taller, moved with more purpose, and the surrounding warriors oriented on them unconsciously. Target the nodes on my mark, Lisa said quietly. Her squad took position. 8 rifles aimed at 3 critical targets. Fire. The human weapons cracked in near-perfect unison. All 3 coordination nodes dropped, their armored heads punctured by high-velocity rounds designed specifically to penetrate swarm biology. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the swarm formation wavered. Individual warriors hesitated, looked around as if confused, lost the perfect synchronization that made them unstoppable. The council forces, sensing weakness, pressed their attack. Swarm warriors that should have coordinated their defense instead fought as individuals, making mistakes, leaving gaps in their formation. Move, Lisa ordered. Before they adapt, her squad relocated 3 blocks north, finding new positions before the swarm could track them. This was the human way of fighting. Hit hard, disappear. Strike again from a different angle. Never give the enemy a stationary target. Never fight the battle they expect over the next 6 hours. Lisa's squad conducted 17 separate ambushes. They targeted coordination nodes, disrupting swarm cohesion. They collapsed buildings on advancing warriors. Using the environment as a weapon, they led swarm units into kill zones where human heavy weapons waited. Each engagement lasted less than 3 minutes each time. They vanished before the swarm could mount an effective response on the other side of the city. Ben Tucker's fire team was demonstrating a different aspect of human warfare. They had discovered that the swarm hive mind, for all its efficiency, had never encountered psychological warfare. Ben set up speakers broadcasting recordings of human war cries, screams and battle sounds at seemingly random intervals. The swarm warriors, connected to a hive intelligence that processed threats based on patterns, could not categorize the chaotic human audio. They diverted forces to investigate sounds that meant nothing. They hesitated before advancing toward areas where human voices echoed. It is working, Private Sam Rodriguez reported from his observation post. Swarm forces are slowing their advance. showing uncertainty. A hive mind is optimized for efficiency, Ben explained to his team. But efficiency requires predictability. We are giving them chaos they cannot process. Meanwhile, Colonel Jack Hayes watched the battle unfold from the human command center. His tactical display showed dozens of small unit actions across the entire combat zone. Each Marine squad was operating independently, making decisions based on local conditions. Adapting in real-time was beautiful controlled chaos. Council forces are requesting our tactical data. Major Lisa Chun reported from the command center. Send it, Jack ordered. Maybe they will learn something. In orbit, Ambassador Velcor stood on the bridge of the Council flagship, watching the battle with growing amazement. The humans are not holding any defensive positions. He observed. No, sir, the tactical officer confirmed. They are conducting what they call mobile warfare, constant movement and engagement. And the swarm casualties. The officer checked his display and his eyes widened. Swarm forces have taken 40% casualties in the sectors where humans are operating, he reported, compared to 15% in areas where only Council forces are engaged. How is that possible? General Nothram demanded. They have 3,000 soldiers against millions of swarm warriors. They are not fighting millions, Velcor said quietly. They are fighting hundreds at a time, then disappearing before the swarm can bring superior numbers to bear. He pulled up footage of a human ambuscade, Marines appearing from nowhere, destroying a swarm coordination node, eliminating 20 warriors in seconds, then vanishing into the urban landscape. They hunt the swarm like predators hunt prey, Velcor continued, striking at weakness, avoiding strength, using the environment to multiply their effectiveness. Captain Kate Morrison stood beside him, trying not to smile. This is how Earth taught us to fight, she said. When you are weaker than your enemy, you do not face them directly. You become their nightmare. On the ground, Lisa Chun's squad had linked up with 2 other human units together. They were stalking a major swarm formation that had broken through Council lines. Target identified, Lisa reported. Swarm assault column, approximately 2,000 warriors. Moving toward the civilian evacuation zone. Council forces are falling back, Ben added. They cannot stop that many. Lisa studied the tactical map. The swarm column was moving through a canyon of industrial buildings, confident in their overwhelming numbers. We cannot stop 2,000 warriors in direct combat, she said, so we do not fight them directly. Sam suggested. Lisa looked at the buildings on either side of the swarm column. They were chemical processing plants, filled with volatile compounds. A plan formed in her mind. Dangerous and absolutely insane. Set charges on the support structures, she ordered. Both sides of the canyon. We are going to drop these buildings on them. Our Marines moved into position, placing explosive charges with practiced efficiency. The swarm column advanced, unaware of the trap closing around them. Charges set, Ben reported. All units pull back to safe distance, Lisa commanded. She watched the swarm warriors march into the kill zone. 2,000 of them packed into a space designed for industrial traffic. Detonate. The explosions were almost gentle compared to what followed. Support columns collapsed and 2 massive buildings began to fall. Slowly at first, then with terrible inevitability, thousands of tons of concrete and steel crashed down on the swarm column. The sound was like the end of the world when the dust cleared. The canyon was filled with rubble-broken swarm. Warriors struggled under debris that even their strength could not lift. Those not crushed immediately were trapped, unable to regenerate from injuries that massive swarm column neutralized, Lisa reported calmly in the Council command center. Alarms were going off. What happened? General Nothram demanded. The humans just eliminated an entire swarm assault column, his tactical officer reported, voice filled with disbelief. 2,000 warriors. Gone. How many human casualties? 0. Sir, Northram stared at the tactical display in silence. He had lost thousands of soldiers in 6 months trying to stop the swarm. The humans had been on the ground for 6 hours and were achieving what seemed impossible. "Get me, Colonel." "Hayes," he said quietly. The communication channel opened. "This is Hayes?" "Colonel," Northram began, and the words were difficult for him. "I believe I owe you an apology. You can apologize after we save your planet," Jack replied without anger. "Right now, I need you to trust me." "What do you need?" "Pull your forces back to defensive positions around the civilian zones," Jack instructed. "Let the swarm advance into the areas we have prepared." "You want us to give them ground?" Northram said incredulously. "I want you to give them exactly the battlefield we choose," Jack corrected. "Trust me, General. This is what humans do best." Northram looked at Velkorth. Ambassador nodded slowly. "Do as he says." Northram ordered his forces over the next 12 hours. The battle-transformed Council forces withdrew to strong defensive positions. Protecting civilians, human marines turned the entire industrial sector into a death trap. The swarm, sensing weakness in the retreat, advanced confidently into ambush after ambush. They died in buildings rigged to collapse. They died in chemical fires that burned too hot for regeneration. They died confused and disoriented by human tactics they could not predict by dawn. The swarm advance had stalled completely. Their casualties were catastrophic. Their hive mind could not adapt fast enough to counter human unpredictability on the command ship. Velkor received reports from across the planet. Swarm forces are withdrawing from all major population centers. His officer reported, withdrawing. Velkor repeated in wondering, 10,000 years of galactic warfare. No one had ever made the Corinthian swarm retreat. Colonel Hayes is requesting communication. The Hive Nexus sat at the center of what had been Callista Prime's largest industrial complex. It pulsed with organic energy, a massive structure of bioengineered tissue and hardened resin that coordinated every swarm warrior on the Foru planet. Colonel Jack Hayes studied the reconnaissance images with grim determination. "Estimated defenders," he asked. "Between 8 and 10,000 swarm warriors in fortified positions," Major Lisa Chun answered. "Council forces tried to breach it 3 times and failed each attempt. They tried to fight their way through the front door," Jack observed. "We are going to use every door they have." He assembled his battalion commanders in the tactical center. "This is a multi-axis assault," he explained. "Team Alpha will approach from the north using underground maintenance tunnels. Team Bravo drops from above. Team Charlie creates a frontal distraction. That is suicide," one of the Council observers said. "It is calculated risk," Jack corrected. "There is a difference. Sergeant Lisa Chun would lead. Team Alpha, through the tunnels, Corporal Ben Tucker commanded the aerial insertion forces. Private Sam Rodriguez volunteered for the most dangerous position. Forward observer with Team Charlie. I need someone up high calling targets," Sam had said when Jack outlined the plan. "I can do it." Jack looked at the young Marine who barely looked old enough to shave. "You understand what I am asking? You are asking me to sit in a sniper position where every swarm warrior on the battlefield will try to kill me." Sam answered, "I understand, sir, and I volunteer." Jack nodded slowly. "Make us proud." Private. The assault began 3 hours before dawn. Lisa Chun led her team into the maintenance tunnels beneath the industrial complex. They moved in absolute silence through the darkness, navigating by thermal imaging and instinct. "Contact ahead," our point man whispered. 3 swarm warriors guarded a junction, their bioluminescent markings casting eerie light. Lisa made hand signals. "Suppress, advance." Eliminate. Her team moved like ghost-silenced weapons, coughed quietly, and the swarm guards dropped. "Keep moving," Lisa commanded above ground. Ben Tucker sat in the troop bay of a dropship that skimmed the surface at near supersonic Speeds his team checked their equipment one final time. 30 seconds to insertion, the pilot announced. Ben looked at his Marines. They were scared, every one of them. And they were going anyway. That was courage. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Remember, he said, we going fast. We hit hard. We make them think there are 1,000 of us instead of 50. The dropship pulled up hard and the bay doors opened. Ben jumped into darkness, his team following without hesitation ahead of the main assault. Sam Rodriguez climbed into his observation post. It was an exposed platform on top of a processing tower with zero cover and a perfect view of the entire battlefield. Any swarm warrior with functioning eyes would spot him immediately. Set up his equipment methodically. Long-range rifle, target designator, communication array, overwatch in position, he reported. Copy that. Overwatch. Jack's voice came through his earpiece. Call the targets. We will do the killing. The swarm became aware of the human assault when Team Charlie opened fire. 200 Marines attacked the main entrance with everything they had: rockets, machine guns, explosives, creating chaos and destruction. The swarm responded exactly as predicted. Thousands of warriors poured toward the frontal assault, enemy taking the bait. Sam reported from his perch. Massive force concentration at the main gate. Alpha Team. Status, Jack called. We are inside the outer perimeter, Lisa answered. Moving through tunnels now. No resistance yet. Bravo Team. Status, touching down in 30 seconds. Ben responded as his dropship screamed. Over the Nexus structure, the multi-axis assault hit. Simultaneously, Lisa's team emerged from the tunnels. Inside the Nexus compound, Ben's Marines rappelled from dropships onto the Nexus structure. Itself, Team Charlie pressed their frontal assault, drawing swarm forces away from the penetration points. It was working perfectly. Then everything went wrong. The swarm Nexus, far more intelligent than anyone had anticipated, recognized the coordinated assault pattern and pulled warriors from the perimeter and sent them toward the internal breach points. Lisa found herself facing hundreds of swarm warriors in narrow corridors. Heavy contact, she shouted into her radio. We are pinned down. Her Marines formed a defensive line, their weapons creating walls of fire that even swarm warriors hesitated to cross, but there were so many of them. For every warrior that fell, 2 more appeared. We cannot hold this position, her second-in-command yelled over the weapons fire. We do not have to hold, Lisa answered. We just have to delay. She pulled grenades from her belt and started throwing them with methodical precision. Each explosion bought them a few more seconds above. Ben Tucker's team had landed on the Nexus structure and were cutting their way inside. Charges placed, he reported. We can blow the primary coordination chamber. Negative, Jack's voice came back. We need you to hold that position until Alpha Team reaches the core. Sir, we are taking heavy casualties, Ben said as a swarm warrior charged his position. He shot it point blank with his rifle, the rounds punching through its armor at close range. I know, Jack said quietly. Hold as long as you can. Ben looked at his team. Half of them were already wounded. They had no reinforcements coming. You heard the colonel, he said to his Marines. We hold. They formed a perimeter around the breach point, creating a killing field that swarm warriors had to cross to reach them. The cost was terrible. On his observation tower, Sam Rodriguez watched the battle unfold through his scope. He called targets with mechanical precision, guiding artillery and airstrikes with deadly accuracy. Swarm reinforcement column approaching from the east, he reported. Coordinates transmitted. Council artillery, now coordinating with human tactics, obliterated the column before it could reach the battle. Second column from the south. More coordinates. More destruction. Swarm warrior spotted Sam's position and began climbing the tower. He switched from his rifle to his sidearm and kept calling targets with one hand while shooting the climber with the other. Team Charlie is being overrun, someone reported on the command channel. Pull them back, Jack ordered. Sir, if we pull back the frontal assault, the swarm will send everything at Alpha and Bravo teams, the tactical officer protested. Jack closed his eyes for a moment. Command meant making impossible choices. Charlie, team holds position, he said in the tunnels. Lisa's team was running out of ammunition. Last magazine, her corporal reported. Make it count. Lisa answered. She checked her tactical display. They were 300 meters from the Nexus. Core 300 meters, that might as well have been 300 kilometers. Then, her radio crackled with a new voice. Alpha team. This is Medic Laura Grant. I am coming to you. Negative, Lisa shouted. Your position is secure. Stay there. You need ammunition and medical supplies, Lavra replied. I have both. Before Lisa could argue, Lavra appeared at the far end of the corridor. She sprinted through withering fire, her medical pack and ammunition bags bouncing against her armor. Swarm warriors shot at her and somehow missed. Lisa provided covering fire as Lavra dove into their position. You are insane, Lisa said. I am a medic, Lavra answered. Already distributing ammunition. Getting shot at is in the job description. The fresh ammunition gave them just enough to push forward. Lisa's team advanced meter by bloody meter toward the Nexus core above them. Ben Tucker's position was being overwhelmed. We cannot hold much longer, he reported. His voice strained. He had been shot twice. His left arm was useless, and he was firing his rifle one-handed. 60 seconds, Jack's voice came through. Give me 60 seconds. Ben looked at what remained of his team. You heard him, Ben said. 1 more minute. They poured everything they had into that minute. Every round, every grenade, every ounce of strength, and Wilbin felt another impact. This time in his chest. His armor stopped the worst of it, but ribs cracked and breathing became agony. 30 seconds, he counted down. Sam Rodriguez was out of ammunition for his rifle. A swarm warrior had reached his platform. He fought it hand to hand, using his rifle as a club, refusing to stop calling targets. Multiple columns converging on the Nexus, he gasped between impacts. Coordinates marked. The warrior's claw caught him across the shoulder, opening his armor, and the flesh beneath. Sam ignored the pain and kept fighting in the Nexus core. Lisa's team finally broke through. The chamber was massive, pulsing with bioorganic machinery that coordinated the entire swarm force. We are in, Lisa reported. Plant the charges. Jack ordered. Lisa's demolitions expert moved forward, setting high-yield explosives with shaking hands behind them. They could hear thousands of swarm warriors approaching. Charges set, the expert reported. We have maybe 2 minutes before they overrun us. Timer set for 30 seconds, Jack commanded. All teams evacuate immediately, sir. Ben's team cannot move, someone reported. They are pinned down. Jack felt the weight of command crushing down on him. Ben, do you copy? I am here, sir. Ben's voice came through. Weak but clear. You need to move now. Cannot move, sir, Ben replied. Too many of them. But the charges are under our position. When they blow, this whole structure comes down. Jack understood what Ben was telling him. Ben, it has been an honor. Colonel, Ben said. Then the radio went silent, except for the sound of gunfire. Lisa's team sprinted back through the tunnel. San Rodriguez, bleeding from multiple wounds, rappelled down from his. 3 days after the Battle of Callista Prime, the Galactic Council assembled an emergency session. Once again, this time, the mood was different. Ambassador Velcor stood before representatives of 47 species And his words carried weight earned through hard experience. "The Corinthian swarm has been stopped," he announced. "Not through superior technology, not through greater numbers, but through humanity teaching us what we had forgotten. That warfare is not about power, but about adaptation." Around the chamber, alien representatives who had dismissed humans weeks ago now listened with respect. "The main swarm fleet is approaching the Velkari homeworld," Velkor continued. "Our sensors detect over 10,000 warships, the largest force they have ever assembled." Murmurs of fear rippled through the assembly. However, Velkor raised his voice. "Humanity has offered to train our forces in their methods. If we are willing to learn." Captain Kate Morrison stood and walked to the podium 3 weeks ago. These same representatives had looked at her with condescension. Now they watched her with hope. "Earth did not develop advanced weapons or superior ships," Kate began. "What we developed, through 5,000 years of constant warfare, were tactics, strategies, and most importantly, the mindset to use them." She activated a holographic display showing human training exercises with Council forces over the past 72 hours. "Human instructors have been teaching your troops small unit tactics, environmental exploitation, asymmetric warfare, psychological operations. Everything that worked against the swarm at Callista." General Nothram stood, and the chamber fell silent. The massive Nostrum warrior had fought wars for centuries. His pride had cost lives at Callista. Now he spoke with humility. "I have spent 2 days training with human marines," he said. "They taught me that everything I knew about warfare was designed for fighting civilized enemies. The swarm is not civilized, they are predators. And humanity taught us how predators hunt." He gestured to several Nostrum officers standing at attention. "My forces are ready to implement human tactical doctrines," Nothram announced. "We ask only that humans lead the assault." Colonel Jack Hayes entered the chamber, his arm in a sling from wounds received at Callista. "Humanity will fight beside you," Jack said. "But this victory must be yours. We cannot be here to save you every time. You need to learn to save yourselves." The council voted unanimously. Human tactical advisors would coordinate the Defense Council. Forces would execute the strategies together. They would face the swarm's main fleet over the next week. The transformation was remarkable. Velkari warriors, who had always fought in tight formations, learned to spread out and use cover nostrum. Heavy troops practiced hit-and-run tactics instead of holding defensive lines. Calyx engineers started thinking of their environments as weapons instead of obstacles. Sergeant Lisa Chun, promoted to lieutenant after Callista, found herself teaching a class of 50 alien soldiers. "Forget everything about honor in combat," she instructed. "The swarm does not care about honor. They care about consumption. Your job is to survive long enough to stop them." She demonstrated human close-quarters combat techniques. When you are weaker than your enemy, you use their strength against them. When they charge, you sidestep. When they mass their forces, you scatter. Always be where they are not. A young Velkari warrior raised his hand. "This feels like cowardice," he said. "It feels like survival," Lisa corrected. "Courage is not about standing still and dying bravely. Courage is about doing whatever it takes to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Private Sam Rodriguez, recovering from his wounds at Callista, worked with Council reconnaissance units. "Your sensors are better than ours," he explained to a group of Quelix scouts, "but you use them to avoid contact. We use them to set up ambushes." He showed them how to identify swarm coordination nodes. "See these patterns in their movement." Sam pointed at tactical displays. "That slight delay in response time means there is a relay node nearby. Kill it and you disrupt their entire formation." The Quelix scouts absorbed the information eagerly. They had watched Sam call targets from an exposed position while fighting hand-to-hand with a swarm warrior. If he said something worked, They believed him medic Laura Grant trained council medical personnel in battlefield triage. "You cannot save everyone," she said bluntly. "So you save those with the best chance of survival first. It seems cruel, but it saves more lives overall." She demonstrated rapid treatment protocols developed through centuries of human warfare. Stabilize, transport, treat, in that order. Keep them alive long enough to reach proper facilities. The swarm main fleet arrived at the Valkyrie system exactly when predicted. 10,000 warships against a combined Council fleet of 15,000 in previous battles. The Council would have had overwhelming advantage, but the swarm had proven that numbers meant nothing without effective tactics. Admiral Velcor commanded the Council fleet from the bridge of the flagship Unity. Beside him stood Colonel Jack Hayes, tactical advisor. "They are approaching in standard swarm formation," the tactical officer reported. "Massive concentrated force designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers. Let them come," Velcor said with new confidence. The battle began as the swarm fleet crossed into weapons range, but the Council forces did not mass to meet them. Instead, they scattered into small battle groups, each operating independently. The swarm, expecting conventional engagement, found themselves fighting dozens of small skirmishes instead of one large battle. Human tactics working, the tactical officer reported with obvious surprise. Swarm coordination breaking down across multiple sectors. Jack watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. It was beautiful in its organized chaos. Each council battle group was adapting to local conditions, responding to swarm movements with fluid flexibility they had learned on the surface of the Valkyrie homeworld. The swarm managed to land assault forces. Lisa Chan commanded a mixed force of humans and Valkyrie defending the capital city. "Remember your training," she called over the command channel. "Do not hold positions. Make them fight for every meter. Use the city against them." The Valkyrie warriors spread out through the urban landscape when swarm forces advanced down a major boulevard. They found it empty. Then buildings on both sides erupted with weapons. Fire swarm warriors fell into prepared kill zones. Those that survived encountered Nostrum. Heavy troops who hit them hard then retreated before the swarm could respond. The swarm coordination nodes, so carefully hidden among regular warriors, found themselves targeted with precision by Quelix snipers trained by Sam Rodriguez. Without coordination, the swarm assault faltered in orbit. The battle raged for 18 hours. Council forces took casualties, but they were adapting in real time. Every mistake became a lesson. Every success was immediately replicated across the fleet. The swarm, for all their biological advantages, could not match the learning curve of determined opponents. "Their queenship," Jack said suddenly, pointing at the tactical display. "There, deep in their formation." Velcor saw it, a massive vessel 3 times the size of any other swarm ship. "That is their command nexus," Jack continued. "Destroy it and you cut the head off the entire swarm force. It is protected by thousands of ships," Velcor observed, "which is why they will never expect anyone to try reaching it." Jack replied he activated the fleet-wide channel. "All forces. This is Hayes. We have identified the swarm command ship. I am leading a strike team to destroy it. I need volunteers." The channel erupted with voices. Every ship wanted to join the assault. Jack selected 50 vessels, a mix of human and council forces. "This is a one-way trip," he warned them. "We go in, we destroy that ship, we probably do not come out. Then we better make it count." A Nostrum captain replied. The strike force detached from the main fleet and accelerated toward the swarm center. They fought through layers of defenders with desperate intensity. Human ships used tactics developed over centuries. Council ships had learned those same tactics in days and applied them with fresh enthusiasm. Ships were lost, but the strike force kept moving. Sam Rodriguez, monitoring from the surface, called targeting data. Despite his still healing wounds, swarm defensive pattern shows weakness in Sector 7. He transmitted. Exploited. The strike force adjusted course and punched through the Gapjack ship, led the final assault around him. Council vessels followed without hesitation. They had learned from humanity, not just tactics, but something deeper. The willingness to sacrifice for others. The Queen ship loomed ahead. Massive and terrible. All ships, weapons free, Jack ordered. Concentrate fire on the central structure. 50 ships unleashed everything they had. Queen ship's shields flared and failed. Its armor cracked under sustained bombardment. Jack's ship took a direct hit, losing half its systems. Keep firing, he shouted through the smoke and sparks. The Queen ship's central structure exploded. The blast wave caught the strike force, destroying half the remaining ships, but it worked across the entire battlefield. Swarm ships suddenly lost coordination. They drifted, confused, unable to process commands from a central authority that no longer existed. The Council fleet pressed their advantage. What had been a pitched battle became a rout swarm. Ships tried to retreat, but Council forces had learned to pursue by dawn. The swarm fleet was destroyed. The cost had been terrible. The Council lost 4,000 ships. The human strike force suffered 70% casualties, but they had won.